Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Let me start my sharing with a story of a girl whose dream was to finish her studies, to be able to help her parents send her two younger siblings to school. But unfortunately, just as she started to pursue her dreams, their small business folded up. Now confronted by their financial loss, her parents had to make a difficult decision. They could only afford to spend for one child, and that is her older sister. Trusting God and His mighty providence, she applied for work at her school as a student assistant, even if this meant she had to sacrifice work and study at the same time. God sent an angel named Sister Assumpta, a Paulinian nun, without whose help her free schooling would not have been possible. Imagine the joy she shared with her parents when years after she was conferred with a diploma. In her heart, she knew this meant there was a bright future waiting for her. The feeling is still as fresh as it was when it happened. I should know because I was that little girl, and that was my life and love story with the Lord. Words are not enough to thank Sister Assumpta, who brought hope in my life. Many years later, fast forward, now I see how God slowly showed me each piece of the puzzle, how she prepared me for what I am doing right now in my service for our community. God has brought me in India, Nigeria, and Kenya, doing missions to remote places. Through these trips, my eyes were opened to the reality of the sufferings of the poor. In my prayers, I would always ask God why He allowed me to experience all this. As I immersed with them in our mission trips, my eyes slowly opened to the reality that something has to be done. We cannot be preaching and telling the people how great God's love is. They would not be able to grasp its meaning because it is difficult to equate love when one lives in such dark, miserable conditions. Our mission trips to Kenya also made me realize the vast work our community has been tasked to do. I realized one important thing, that before we could answer this unique calling of serving the poor, we have to begin with a radical transformation of our hearts. We have to be renewed first before we could begin to really appreciate what we are called to do, and that is our work for the poor. In our recent trip a month ago to Kenya, the Lord brought us to a small place called St. Anne's Home. Here in this small village in Eldoret, most of the children are orphans. Others were abandoned by their parents, left on the streets to fend for themselves when they were very young. Some were even babies. It is heartbreaking to see them and listen to their stories. These children are physically and mentally impaired, and the sad fact is that their parents abandoned them because they were considered a curse in their tribe. Most of the children were left by their parents by the roadside, others outside the church steps. Some of them were even thrown away. Some survived, but most were found dead. Why are the parents doing this? Because of the shame these children bring to their kinsmen. St. Anne's Home survived through the help of the local bishop, some kind-hearted Christians, as well as those who come and visit the orphanage. In this home, the children are fed, clothed, and are given spiritual nourishment to prepare them to face the future with hope through education. As of today, they have 21 kids, but their numbers are slowly growing. The number one challenge is how to sustain the needs of the home, especially when illnesses strike. Now I know what the phrase "to see the face of Christ in the poor" meant. In the midst of the children, listening to their laughter, playing with them, feeling their embrace, touching their small faces, holding their hands, one can't help but be overcome with an overwhelming sense of joy, to share their joy and their sense of total trust in the Lord, knowing that despite all this, the Lord will always be with them and will never abandon them. That, my dear brothers and sisters, is what an experience of God means. Before we left Kenya, God brought us to two poor seminaries, namely St. Paul and Christ the King. There were young adults wanting to become priests. We have been praying for more vocations, and now God led us to these young men to be able to fulfill their dreams of becoming priests. They also need our help. At this point, I would like to invite you to watch this video with the hope that you too may share in my experience of the joy as well as the sufferings of the children. God has blessed us and our families with good life here in Canada, and I would like to invite you to come and experience the joy of sharing. Let us be the Lord's vessel of hope and love. Adopting a scholar will be the answer to their prayers. In behalf of all the children, let me greet each one of you. Mungu anakapenda. God loves you. Asante sana. Thank you, and may God be praised.